This Courage video will help you to understand the concepts, terms, and icons associated with sex and gender identity. It is important to note that these may change over time and across cultures, but this is a good point of departure. Rather strangely, we start with the planets in our very own solar system. Moving out from the Sun, we have Mercury, Venus, Earth, and then Mars. In the ancient Greek Byzantine codexes written over 1,500 years ago, each planet was associated with a Roman or Greek god and an alchemical element. Iron for Mars, the god of war, copper for Venus, the goddess of love, and quicksilver for Mercury, the messenger of the gods, also known as Hermes. Each planet was also assigned a gender. Mars on the right of Earth symbolized masculinity, Venus on the left represented the ultimate in femininity, and Mercury was said to have produced a child of both male and female sexes with Venus, who was known as Hermaphroditus. The name hermaphrodite came to represent a person or animal who has both male and female sex organs or characteristics, now referred to as intersex. In the 1700s, Carl Linnaeus developed a botanical encyclopedia where he used the planetary symbols for Mars, Venus, and Mercury to represent male, female, and hermaphrodite or hybrid plants. These symbols have become the icons we use to represent sex and gender in biology, medicine, genealogy, sociology, and anthropology. They are also icons for LGBTQ culture, gender, and identity politics. A person's sex refers to their biological status and is usually assigned at birth based on a child's external anatomy. Sex is typically categorized as male, female, or intersex. Intersex is an umbrella term used to describe people with differences in reproductive anatomy, chromosomes, or hormones that don't fit typical definitions of male and female. Intersex can refer to a spectrum of natural variations that fall outside of the strict male-female binary. However, being intersex is not the same as being non-binary or transgender, as these refer to gender identities rather than biological differences. Gender is a social construct of norms, behaviors, and roles that can vary between societies and cultures over time. Gender is often categorized as male, female, or non-binary. Gender identity refers to a person's internal sense of self and what they believe their gender to be. People can relate to being a man, a woman, neither, or both. Gender identity is not outwardly visible to others, as with gender expression. Some people's gender identity aligns with the sex they were assigned at birth. However, for other people, their gender identity differs in varying degrees from what they were assigned. Cisgender or cis is an adjective that describes a person whose gender identity aligns with the sex they were assigned at birth and comes from the Latin prefix cis, meaning on this side of. Transgender or trans is an adjective used to describe someone whose gender identity differs from the sex they were assigned at birth. Trans is the Latin prefix meaning across from. By way of example, a transgender woman may be listed as male at birth, but her gender identity is now female. Gender expression is how a person presents their gender outwardly through their behavior, clothing, voice, or other social characteristics, which can be viewed as feminine, masculine, or androgynous, where a person's gender is unclear. These definitions and perceptions can change over time and across cultures and societies. Some people identify as non-binary or genderqueer, which can be represented by each of these icons and refers to people who do not describe themselves or their genders as fitting into the categories of man or woman. Gender identities can be fluid, as in the case of demi-girls and demi-boys, who are individuals who identify as partly man or woman, regardless of their assigned gender at birth, but also fall partly outside of the binary of male or female. There are over 70 different gender identity terms used in the world today. Agender, genderless, and neutrois are all terms used to describe a person who does not identify as any gender. They may view themselves as gender neutral or describe themselves as being indifferent towards genders. Some people use the term gender expansive, which describes a person who is more flexible towards gender identity. Gender dysphoria refers to the psychological distress that a person feels when their gender identity differs from the sex they were assigned at birth. This is not experienced by all transgender people, and the level of dysphoria and distress can vary from person to person. Gender transitioning is a process a person can take to bring themselves and/or their bodies into alignment with their gender identity. Transitioning can include simply telling one's family, friends, or community, changing your name or pronouns, or medical interventions such as hormone therapy or gender confirmation surgery. Transvestism is when any person who can be asexual, bisexual, heterosexual, or gay engages in cross-dressing. It is different to transsexuals who cross-dress as part of their transitioning process, as transvestites can be comfortable with their assigned biological sex and associated gender identity and social roles. Sexual orientation refers to the physical, romantic, and/or emotional attraction to members of the same and/or other genders, including lesbian, gay, bisexual, and straight orientations. The term sexual preference is deemed derogatory, as it suggests that being gay, lesbian, or bisexual is voluntary and can therefore be changed. It is also important to note that the term homosexual is considered offensive by the LGBTQ community due to its clinical history and use in defining gay men or women as having a disorder in need of remediation. People do not need to have had specific sexual experiences or relationships to know their own sexual orientation, or for this to be validated. In fact, they do not need to have had any sexual experiences at all. Sexual orientation is separate from gender identity. Transgender people can be straight, lesbian, gay, bisexual, or queer. A person who transitions from male to female and is attracted solely to men would typically identify as a straight woman. A person who transitions from female to male and is solely attracted to men would typically identify as a gay man. Pansexuality is sexual, romantic, or emotional attraction towards people regardless of their sex or gender identity. Pansexual people may refer to themselves as gender blind and believe that gender and sex are not determining factors in their romantic or sexual attraction to others. Everyone has pronouns that are used when referring to them, such as she, her, he, him, or they, and them. Pronouns are how we identify ourselves apart from our name in sentences and stories. For many people, their pronouns are as important as their name, as they affirm their identity and how they see themselves. As with names, people can choose which pronouns they would prefer to be used when other people are talking about them. The easiest way to ensure that you are not offending anyone, or may be offended by anyone, is to introduce yourself with your name and your preferred pronouns, or to gently inform people who have assumed the incorrect pronouns for your gender identity. Thanks for watching. For more information, visit CourageChildProtection.com. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our Courage channel. Stay strong and take courage.